Ludwig van Beethoven was born in Bonn, Germany, in December 1770. Although the exact date of his birth is not certain, records show that he was baptized on December 17, which suggests he was likely born on the 16th. Beethoven came from a musical family. His grandfather, also named Ludwig, was a respected musician, and his father, Johann, was a singer in the court chapel. Johann quickly recognized his son's musical talent and hoped to make him a child prodigy, like Mozart. However, his teaching methods were often harsh and abusive. Beethoven showed exceptional promise at a young age. By the time he was 7, he gave his first public performance, and by his early teens, he was already earning a living as a musician. At just 14 years old, he was appointed assistant court organist. He studied composition and gained the attention of prominent musicians in Bonn. In 1792, at the age of 21, he moved to Vienna, which would become his permanent home. In Vienna, Beethoven studied under the great composer Joseph Haydn, though their relationship was not always smooth. Beethoven's talent and originality quickly set him apart. He became known as a virtuoso pianist, celebrated for his intense and emotional performances. He also began to compose music that challenged the conventions of the time, pushing the boundaries of classical form and expression. During the late 1790s and early 1800s, Beethoven composed many of his early masterpieces, including his first 2 symphonies, several piano sonatas, and string quartets. However, it was during this period that he began to experience the first signs of hearing loss, a cruel fate for a musician. By his late 20s, the condition was worsening, and Beethoven was devastated. In 1802, he wrote the famous Heiligenstadt Testament, a letter to his brothers expressing his despair and even thoughts of suicide, but also his determination to continue living for his art. Despite his growing deafness, Beethoven entered his most productive and celebrated period, often referred to as his middle period. From 1803 to 1812, he composed some of the most iconic works in classical music history. These include the Third Symphony, known as the Eroica, which marked a new era in symphonic music. He also wrote the Fifth Symphony, with its famous 4-note motif, the Sixth Symphony, or Pastoral, and the opera, Fidelio. During this time, Beethoven's music grew more bold, dramatic, and emotionally intense. Beethoven never married, although he fell in love several times. His relationships were often troubled, and many of the women he loved were either married or from a higher social class. One of the enduring mysteries of his life is the identity of the immortal beloved, addressed in a passionate letter found among his possessions after his death. The letter has sparked endless speculation among historians and biographers. As his hearing declined further, Beethoven withdrew from public life. By the time he was in his 40s, he was almost completely deaf. Yet, he continued to compose groundbreaking music, relying on his inner ear and a deep understanding of musical structure. His later works became increasingly complex, introspective, and ahead of their time. In the final phase of his career, known as his late period, Beethoven created some of his most profound and spiritual compositions. These include the Ninth Symphony, which features the famous Ode to Joy choral finale, an anthem of unity and brotherhood. This was one of the first major symphonic works to incorporate vocal soloists and a full chorus. He also wrote his late string quartets and the Missa Solemnis, which many consider to be among the greatest achievements in Western music. Beethoven's health declined in his final years. He suffered from various illnesses, including chronic liver disease, and endured great personal and financial hardships. Still, his reputation as one of Europe's greatest composers continued to grow. In March 1827, Ludwig van Beethoven died in Vienna at the age of 56. His funeral was attended by thousands, and he was buried with great honor. Beethoven left behind a body of work that transformed the landscape of Western music. He bridged the classical and romantic eras, influencing generations of composers, including Brahms, Wagner, and Mahler. Despite losing his hearing, Beethoven created music of unparalleled beauty, power, and depth. His story is one of extraordinary resilience, passion, and genius, a reminder that even in the face of great adversity, the human spirit can produce timeless art.